good to go. I'll let you know when we're live.
Thank you.
That's great. Yep, we're now live. Thank you, Councillor.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this Cabinet panel on community engagement and cooperative development. My name's Sam Collins. I'm a councillor from Hitchin in the Highbury ward, and I'm joined by various members of the public and other councillors in this panel. It's being conducted with members, officers, and members of the public at various locations, communicating via audio and video and online. There is the opportunity for public and the press to listen in and view proceedings on the council's YouTube channel as well. Before we get going formally, I would like to invite the committee member and scrutiny officer to take the roll call to confirm that members, officers and registered speakers are in attendance. James, take it away.
Great, thank you, Councillor. So if you can just let me know that you can hear me and that we can all hear you when your name is called. We've got quite a few people this evening, so I'll run through it as quick as possible. Starting with members of the Cabinet panel, we've got Councillor Sam Collins, who we know we can hear you. That's all right.
Here.
Thank you. Councillor Judy Billing.
Hello.
Thank you. Councillor Ian Albert.
No, he's hoping to be a bit late. He's a head teacher recruitment on a governing body.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Daniel Allen. I don't think I saw him. No, that's all right. Councillor Keith Hoskins.
Good evening.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Sarah Dingley.
Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Jean Green.
Yeah.
And we've got Councillor Michael Muir, who's substituting for Councillor Tony Hunter this evening.
Present.
Thank you. And Councillor Mandy Tandy.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. And we've got 3 presenters this evening, or should have. We've got Jim McNally from Bulldog Big Lunch.
Hello there.
Thank you, Jim. Claire Murphy from Bulldog Big Lunch.
She's having problems with getting back from London, so she might be a bit late.
Okie doke, no problem. Tom Hardy from Hitchin Bid. No, I don't think we have Tom Hardy. So other officers joining us and councillors. We've got Councillor Ruth Brown down to join us. No. Councillor Val Bryant. No. Chloe Gray.
Yes, thanks, James.
Thank you. Claire Morgan. Nope. Ashley Hawkins.
Yeah, I'm here.
Thanks, Ash. Danny Pearson.
Yeah, good evening, everyone.
Thank you. We don't have Ruben. And Steve Crowley.
Yes, I'm here, James. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. And we've got some public attendees as well. So we've got Alice Johnson from the Lecture of Bid.
I'm not sure if she's actually away, but she was going to try and get in on the meeting, but I'm not heard from her yet. So
Okay, no problem. And that's Kathy Andrews, I presume.
yeah.
Thank you, Kathy. We've got James Willis.
Hello. Yes, good evening.
Thank you. Tara Gear. Alistair Willoughby. No. I've got Emma from St Mary's School PTA. Sorry, I don't have a last name, Emma.
Hello, here, present.
Is that Emma Rowe? Thank you.
Speaking.
Yeah, Kath Boughton.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm representing Royston Bid, Royston First Bid.
Thank you, Kath. I've got Rob, Carl Philby from Creative Royston. And Helen White from Pixie's Cafe in Bulldog.
Hello, I'm here.
Thank you, Helen. And Tom Hardy should have just joined us. Tom, can you hear me and can we hear you?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Brilliant. Thank you. I think that's everyone. Is there anyone else on the call who I haven't called? Looking at it, I don't think so. If anyone else comes in, I'll admit them as they come. Back to you. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks a lot, James. Just a bit of housekeeping to start off with. Can everybody mute their microphones if you're not speaking at the moment? Because a few people have got their mics open and you just get the odd mobile phone ping and it's a bit distracting for people if they're speaking. Right, I've got a few little bits of formalities that I have to read out to you, a few more of those. Apologies for absence. Well, we've just done that bit. There are none that I've had, so any other apologies, but I think we've covered that off. Nope, right, moving on. I've got the chair's announcements. In accordance with council policy, this meeting is being audio recorded as well as filmed. The audio recordings will be available to view on mod.gov and the film recording via the NHDC YouTube channel, which also has sound. So you could just view it all there. Members are reminded to make declarations of interest before an item. I have absolutely no idea how you're going to manage to come up with a conflict of interest on this meeting. The detailed reminder about this and speaking rights is set out under the chair's announcements on the agenda, though I largely ignore the speaking rights bit of the rule in these meetings because it's all about listening to the public and what people want to do. And this meeting is about how North Lancs District Council, or North Lancs Council as we're now known, might support organisations wishing to put on events across the district to celebrate the Jubilee and any other events as well. And welcome to all of those who are participating this evening. The third bit of this agenda I've got to come to, though, are the minutes of the previous meeting, which was an entirely different subject. That was on the 30th of September last year and the 8th of November as well. I propose that we take as read and approve that as a true record the meetings of the minutes held on the 30th of September and the 8th of November 2021. Can I have a seconder, please? If that's got to be a councillor, unfortunately. I saw Sarah Dingley's hand go up first, so I'm happy to have Sarah to second that. And can we go to the vote, please, James, on that?
Yeah, that's great. If members could just raise their hand if they wish to approve the record as true, and then we'll just see how many we've got.
We have 2 physical hands there as well, James.
Right, okay, thank you. Yeah, if that's enough then to carry it, that's carried. Thank you, Councillor.
Just now moving on to the next bit, we've got notification of any other business. We don't have any, and that moves us towards the public participation session of this meeting, which is the most important bit, quite frankly. Now, what I tend to try and do with these public participation bits before I introduce the first speakers is I would like to save questions on the presentations unless they're very specific to the end, because then we'll just open the floor up to have a discussion to anybody who wants to talk about anything that we're talking about tonight. We can just open the floor and have a back and forth, and I don't like to keep it very formal. I like it to be just a bit of an open, free-flowing exchange of ideas, and I think that's quite important to do it that way. The first group I have to call as public participation are Jim and Claire from the Bulldog Big Lunch, but we've heard that Claire might be struggling with the transport services, so I think Jim will be okay with this. I'd like to jump straight forwards to Tom Hardy from Hitchin Bid for his section of that. I can see if Tom's ready for that.
Yeah, I'm ready. Yeah.
Welcome, Tom. The floor is yours.
Thanks. So what we're doing in Hitchin, we had a group together in, I think it was late December, actually. We had our first meeting, and then we had another one last week. So we've kind of got the bare bones of the plans of what we're going to be doing over the 4 days. Thursday, we're going to have a big screen in the marketplace. So we'll be showing the Trooping the Colour. So that'll be on from 10 o'clock in the morning till 12:30. After that, at about 1:30, we're going to be showing The Queen with Helen Mirren on the big screen. And then in the afternoon, we're looking at having a band concert on the marketplace, which will take us into the evening. So we've still got the big screen. And then at 8:30, we're going to have singing in the marketplace. So sort of patriotic music, how can best describe it? So things like I Bow to Thee, My Country and Royal Britannia, that sort of thing. That will be sung in the marketplace. And what we've arranged is for a beacon. So there's going to be 1,500 beacons being lit across the country at 9:45 on Thursday the 2nd. So we have found, or we've agreed with Ozinski's, on the roof of Ozinski's, we're going to have scaffolding up. We've just been in touch with the Lord Lieutenant's office, who's the Queen's representative, to come and light the beacon. We're also going to be inviting one of the Bowes-Lyons family, because obviously the connection with the Queen Mother, to come and light it as well. That will be lit at 9:45. So the singing will take us up to there. We'll have the Hitchin band playing on the marketplace, and then we'll light the beacon. On Friday, we are working with Tilehouse Rotary on a carnival. So that will set off from the football club at about 12 o'clock. That will travel through the town centre, and we'll have sort of stalls and some live music on the marketplace while that's going on. Saturday, we have stalls, kids stalls, craft activities. I've just ordered a few life-size cutouts of the Queen to go around, just to dot around the marketplace. People can get pictures of her with her, and just craft activities, things like that. And we're going to be putting bunting up around the town. On Sunday, that's going to be the big lunch. So we are speaking with Wetherspoons, who seem to have a massive amount of unused picnic benches across the county, and they've agreed to allow us to borrow some of them for this big lunch. So we're shutting the main streets around the marketplace, encouraging businesses to have chairs and tables outside, serving afternoon tea or dinners, lunches, things like that. And we'll put bunting up everywhere. So we're looking at having the Hitchin Light Orchestra playing in the marketplace around the daytime as well. So really, when we first looked at this, we looked at it when the information was first released from Buckingham Palace. So we've been trying to sort of mirror roughly what's going on in London as to what's going, so how we can do something similar in the town. I've also been to the library today, and I've picked up the 1977 Silver Jubilee souvenir program, which is quite interesting. So I've had a look through there and see what kind of things we could pick up from. I like the idea of doing a souvenir program. So there's a lot of information about the royal connections with the town, and lots of different photos in there, but it also has a list of events and things like the Scouts do canoeing on the River Hiz. So there's some interesting stuff to take from there. Not sure we have the capacity to deliver all of it, but I can certainly get in touch with some of the organisations that still exist to see whether they would be interested in putting on other events like that.
Okay, thanks, Tom. That sounds really quite exciting. I'm looking forward to it. I'm thinking clotted cream scones looking at the ducks on a sunny day, hopefully. Jim, you're up next from the Baldock Big Lunch, but I know you're due to sort of present with Claire, and she's not yet here. So I don't know if you're happy to go ahead without her or how you want to proceed.
Sam, I'm quite happy to go ahead without Claire if necessary. No problem at all.
Go ahead then, Jim. The floor's yours. If Claire comes later, we can sort of rope her in later on.
Of course. Baldock has been involved in the Big Lunch for probably about 5 years now, and what we decided to do was to change the date of the Big Lunch to coincide with the Jubilee when it came around. But our celebrations are starting probably about 3 weeks before that. In fact, we have the Baldock Festival, which starts at the end of April and runs for 3 weeks, going through towards our street fair on the 14th of May. We're going to use that as a precursor, just to get people interested in the Jubilee celebrations. And that festival will have a Jubilee theme to it, as will all of our summer events. So that culminates in the street fair on the 14th of May. We then have and there are, as I said, 100+ events going on within that 3 weeks, starting with the Baldock Beer Festival at the beginning of April, and then culminating in the street festival, or street fair rather. We then have about 2 weeks hiatus when we can really get ready for the Big Lunch. Now, the Big Lunch, what we have tried to do, and we will continue to do, this year. We have a strong group of people who will organise it, and we ensure that we involve local producers as much as possible. So we've got all of the different suppliers from the town who are going to provide all the food. What will happen is that the high street area will be turned over to the big lunch, and we will set up marquees there with tables, and people prior to the big lunch, they will buy tickets knowing what food is available from what supplier, and they will turn up and they'll get served with their food as the afternoon progresses. There will also be a fun fair, and we've asked the fun fair if they can provide fair rides with a nostalgic theme. We'd ideally like them to be sort of 50s, 60s type of fair rides. Within that, we're encouraging people to dress up for the occasion. We're hoping to have a fancy dress competition, and on top of that, our music for the day will be provided by local musicians, again playing appropriate music, but emphasising the nature of the event. We really believe that we want to involve the town and involve those people who, for one reason or another, aren't involved in their own small street parties. We're very aware that a lot of streets will be having their own street parties, and we don't want to sort of rain on their parade. But our idea is to get probably about 300 people or so in the high street, sitting down, enjoying an alfresco meal in the sunshine, because it always shines on the day of the big lunch, and just enjoying themselves. I think as far as we're concerned, it's something that we've been doing for five years. So we're simply putting a slant on it and encouraging people to go with that. And people who come to the Baldock Big Lunch will do that. We have a team set up to decorate all the gazebos and the marquees with red, white, and blue bunting, that sort of thing. And we're just going to set up a great area for people to come and enjoy as much as they want to.
Well, thanks, Jim. That sounds like a lot of fun. What I'd normally do here is open the floor, but today we're going to be a bit different because with the amount of events going on, but quite important that we hear from the officers from the council on this. And I know Chloe Gray's got an information note that she'd like to present. Chloe's from the commercial team, but we've also got Ash Hawkins here as well, who's from the licensing team. He'll also be able to give some good steers and some guidance on what we to do, what people need to do to get events going. Chloe, take it away.
So I'm actually going to hand over to Ash. Sorry to be so slopey-shouldered. And then we'll come back to my area is just really generalising on what the purpose of today's event is. And obviously, it's good to bring everybody together who's looking at organising events. And Ash is kindly going to give us an overview of how the council can help to support any community group that are looking to do something, not just in support of the Queen's Jubilee, but a community event throughout 2022. So that's all I wanted to say, really. So Ash.
Thanks for that, Chloe. And Sam, I'm the community engagement officer, not licensing, but I do get involved a little bit in licensing as well. Yeah, the first thing I want to point out is that Jim McNally, he represents the Baldock Events Forum, and we've also got Sarah Dingley, who has set up the Royston Events Group, is it called, Sarah?
Royston Events Partnership.
Yeah, this is something we're keen to do across the district. I don't know if it happens in Hitchin or Letchworth, but for example, with Jim and also with Sarah, they hold premises license for the town, and they also hold, in Jim's, he holds a street trade license as well. which other groups in the town can use. So, for example, in Bulldog, there's other groups like Bullstock, like the Bulldog Festival, Bulldog Christmas Market. And instead of them having to apply for licenses for every single event, which is time consuming, and both for officers and also for the people putting the applications in, is that the Bulldog Events Forum hold the licenses for that. So the groups approach Jim or Sarah and ask for permission to use their licenses. So it saves a lot of time and effort for everyone. Now, I know we've got Tom Hardy here. I don't know if that's the same in Hitchin. Do groups approach Hitchin, the bid, and say, like, we're holding the event, can we use your licenses? Or is that something you might be able to do in the future? Or Tom?
Yes, yeah, we do. So in fact, we go a little bit further than that. So we do encourage people to come and run events in the town, but also we've started helping people with things like road closures, event management plans, risk assessments, and things like that, to kind of, because when people approach an event or think about doing an event, they're often put off by the mountain of paperwork that has to go with it and the considerations in place. So we're kind of there with a lot of the stuff that we've done already. So we're there to sort of support them in getting the paperwork over the line, and helping them that way, as well as obviously giving them permission to run under our street training consent and premises license.
Yeah, and is that the same for Letchworth, Kathy, or?
Yeah, we kind of do exactly the same as Tom does, where people can trade under our licenses and we help them with the relevant paperwork and things like that.
Cool. In terms of the content on the actual internet, on the NHGC website, there's a section for planning your event. But as Tom's already pointed out, it is quite nerve-wracking for people new to organising events. So whilst the content is on there, through our team, the community engagement team, we like to signpost and help people through that process. So there is things on there to notify SAG, the Safety Advisory Group, of your event that you're planning. There's also, if you're holding an event on NHGC land, there's a land application form on there as well. And there's also a template for planning your events. But I think for people who are new to organising events, it's quite daunting. And we want to take away that kind of pain in the process. So, you know, we're keen for people to come through myself or through our colleagues in the community engagement team, so we can guide them through that process and make it pain-free as much as possible.
Thanks, Ash. Chloe, have you got anything to add to that?
No, nothing to add other than just really repeating what Ash said, that we are here to help and to support any community group that want to put on something. And as I said before, not just in terms of the Queen's Jubilee, but throughout the year. I was just actually going to bring in Danny. Have you got anything that you wanted to particularly add? Sorry, I'm really putting you on the spot here, but I don't want to leave you out in case she had something really vital to add, in, you know, any advice to community groups that are here today.
Nothing. Thanks for putting me on the spot. Nothing vital. Just to say, you know, echoing Ash. Ash has got a lot of experience of putting on these events. But we're also very mindful that we have quite a big reach with our network groups, and social media platform for North Herts District is very good as well. So we can amplify any event that we can kind of lend our support to. So we're there for that. And, you know, the recent, now that we're here, Councillor Sam Collins and Ash did an amazing job for the tractor rally in Hitchin at Christmas, because at one point we could see it coming a mile off that no one knew the route, no one knew where to stand, what times are going to happen. So we absolutely blanketed every social media platform we could, as well as word of mouth or network groups. And I think in the end, you know, due to their hard work and our kind of team, we were able to really put on a good show. And the fact that everyone was asking for it again straight away kind of shows if we all work together, we can really promote an event to be the best it can be. So yeah, that's what we're here for as well, amplifying.
Thanks, Danny. And on that note, I will use my chair's privilege a little bit to say there is a petition coming up about that for next year to make sure the tractor rally can come back. I recognise quite a few faces, including Jim's, who are out watching that and enjoying it. We hope to bring that back. And Ash's team was super helpful on that. It was quite last minute, and we just sort of threw it together and got it to work. It'll be bigger and better next year, or this year. At this point, I'd like to throw the floor open to everybody, and I can see that Val's got a hand up already. However, what I like to do in these sessions, sorry, Val, it's normally Val's chairing the council meetings, is I like to hear from members of the public before I hear from members of the council. So if any members of the public want to dive in and ask questions of anybody who's spoken, or indeed anybody else in the meeting, please feel free to. If not, if you do want to, put your raise hand function up here on Zoom. Otherwise, I probably won't see you. But I don't see any hands up at the moment other than Val. So Val, go ahead.
Thank you, Sam. In my position as chair of the council, I've had an email from the Vice Lieutenant of Hertfordshire, Richard Beasley. Very nice email offering their services. And they want to know if we want them to be present at any of our events for the Platinum Jubilee, to let them know. And so that would be either Lord Lieutenant, the Vice Lieutenant, or one of the deputies. I think there are about 11 deputies. So really it is up to individual event organisers if they want to have that contact with the lieutenancy actually representing the Queen for their Jubilee event.
And thanks for that, Val. Will you make that information how these people can get in touch? They email you about it as chair of the council to pass it on?
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
I'll pass it on.
Well, Val's email address, you can, if you don't know it, you can find it on the council website. Chair of the council should be easy. I think the Lord Lieutenant, what I heard earlier on is Tom Hardy's already nabbed him for Hitchin to like
oh, good.
So
sorry, I was late.
Yeah, absolutely. As a Hitchin councillor, I'm very pleased to hear that. I'm going to keep the conversation going, but please, anybody who wants to jump in, just put your hand up. I'm very happy to hear from everybody. I want to get as many comments as possible. Jim's hand's shot up, but before I come to Jim, I'm going to go to Kath because we haven't heard from her. Kath. Oh, you're muted, Kath.
I've got it. Sorry about that. So over in Royston, we're at the very early stages of planning, but what we're starting to do, we're working with Sarah Dingley on putting on an event in Royston Priory Gardens. I know that the Royston First team is catching up with Sarah and with Ash shortly to, over the next few days really, to discuss plans for that. So that'll be a community event, and it's great to hear what else is going on. It gives us a lot of ideas and things that we can do to help put Royston on the map a bit more. We really want to engage local businesses, so we'll be certainly running a decorated shop window competition, which is always really popular, and it gets the businesses involved too, which obviously extends to the members of the public. So yeah, we're on the map in Royston, slowly putting our plans together.
That sounds like everybody's going to have a good show at the moment. I'd be interested. We haven't heard, I know Kathy's here, we haven't heard a huge amount from and I'm putting you on the spot. Sorry about this, Kathy. We haven't heard a huge amount from we've heard what Hitchin's up to, we've heard what Royston's up to, we've heard what Bulldog's up to. Very curious to hear what Letchworth is up to as well.
We are planning. We've had a bit of a reshuffle in the office last week, so things haven't gone quite to plan, but we are having plans to have something over the whole of the weekend. But nothing is set in concrete yet, but we are going to get the businesses involved and just kind of have a family event going on throughout the weekend.
That sounds wonderful. If I didn't know already that I would be in Hitchin for it, I would very much like to come over to Letchworth. I might come over at some point and check it out. But
split yourself in two.
I certainly will. It's always nice. I like the coffee in Letchworth. So just going through what we've heard. So it sounds like there's some good events going on, but lots of ideas and different ways of doing things. Now, it sounds like Kathy and Tom have got a good way of working in terms of getting the licenses going, and then a little bit more in Bulldog and Royston to a less sort of formalised way. Again, coming back to, Jim's got his hand up. Jim, you go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Sam. Just wanted to say that for those people who are thinking of having their own big lunch event on the Sunday or similar type of event, and perhaps for Kathy in Letchworth, if she's not done a big lunch type thing before. But the Eden project that runs the big lunch does have packages to help anybody who wants to organise a big lunch event. So you can get that, just Google Eden project and you'll be able to get that. So you'll be able to develop a framework very, very quickly. I think what is important if you're running a larger event is that you start planning as soon as possible. You get your event management plan worked out and engage with your community engagement officer for the area. We're very lucky to have Ashley Hawkins as the officer for Baldock and Royston, and I'm not just saying that because he's here, but he is very, very good at helping to pull things together and educating our team. We now have a very good team of people who can run events, and as far as the licensing is concerned, he pointed us in the right direction, and we now have the licensing aspects pretty well tied up within Baldock and formalised. So anybody who wants to run an event pretty much can come to us and we can help out or point them in the right direction, which is normally somewhere along the lines of, well, Ash Hawkins can help you. But there you go.
Thanks, Jim. Now, something I just want to ask those of you who are not members of the council, or if you are members of the council, not from a member of council point of view, how many people have looked on the council's webpage to find out what we can do as the council to help out events that are going on in the district? I'm seeing shaking of heads and uncertainty, and nobody seems to know about it. That's interesting. Okay, I'm going to put everybody on the spot then. What would you like to see on that website, and what information would you like the council to give you? I'm not going to call people by name, but I'd love to see someone volunteering information. Kath, go ahead.
Yes, I think ideas. I mean, obviously this evening's very useful, but some ideas, some frameworks of the kind of things that we could be doing. A little bit, bio about what's happening in Hitchin, what's happening in Baldock, Royston, Letchworth. It's really nice to see everyone working together. What's worked in the past? It's just having the ideas there, I think, in the first place. And then alongside that, links to the licensing, even a licensing framework. And I know Ash works with each of us individually. But yeah, useful information to help us get things off the ground would be really good.
Okay, that would be good to know. I know there's some good information on there. James, your hand's shot up. We haven't heard from you. So welcome first and go ahead.
Oh, thank you, Sam. What would be useful, I guess, a sort of series of time frames for getting things done leading up to the events to help people plan. And I really agree with Kath to say it's really good to see what everyone else is doing so we can connect with ideas. There may be some crossover between different communities and things, so we can link up in different ways, or even in the future. That's a good way to start a network of activities ongoing, isn't it? So yeah, I think a framework of like a diary really of when things have to be organized by and that sort of thing. I've been told more about the process rather than seen it on the website, so I do have some of the information.
Thanks, James. Then Jim, then Ash, please.
Yeah, I'm going to get quite parochial here in that of all the 4 towns, Baldock is the only town that is not part of a business improvement district or bid, and we don't have a town centre manager. And we are the only town that where all of the community events are run purely by volunteers. And sometimes when people come to us, people tend to forget that. And what I would like to see is help from the council for Baldock to actually turn it around, some constructive help where we can set up a bid, or if we can't set up a bid, and there have been historic reasons why we couldn't, but if we can't, then how we can actually get access to regular funding, which will enable us the luxury in Baldock of a town centre manager, because at the moment that's something we don't have, and we rely on volunteers, and it's fine while those volunteers are there, but at some stage they will be going.
Ash.
Yeah, just with regards to time frames, yeah, I agree. It would be good if we could have that on our website in terms of key dates and times when you need to submit applications for, you know, road closures or for licensing, etc., etc. But the other thing we do have is we have the SAG calendar, the Safety Advisory Group calendar, which details all the events going on across the district. Now, some of that content's confidential because it names people individually, but I can't see a reason why the events of the SAG can't be replicated on the website somewhere, so people can look at it and see where there's opportunity for joint working or to avoid duplication.
Thanks, Ash. I mean, the council website does have a calendar function with a bunch of council meetings and things like that on it. I don't think it'd be an entirely difficult project to be able to put on other major events in the district on there as well. I mean, we've got sort of council of surgeries and things on there, so I think it'd be a relatively straightforward job to put those on there. I'm also hearing, I think it might be worthwhile, I'm not sure whose department does this actually, but having a sort of Jubilee events calendar page somewhere on there as well. I think that's something to take away from this meeting that we'll have to go and look into. Again, I can't imagine that's going to be entirely difficult to do. So that should be something I think we should take away as an action from this. But the next action I shall take is to call Judy to speak. Judy.
Thank you, Chair. Just a couple of really quite banal points from me. One is to say that sadly the days of local government putting money into town centre development is way past us, and after the last 12 years of 50% cuts in funding from government to local government. There was a time, a long time ago, when in fact local government did support things like town centre initiatives over many, many years in lots of glorious partnerships. But the help given now tends to be in the scope of helping with bid ballots, election processes, and practical help rather than financial. But it's awful to think that Baldock needs to be left out of that, and I'm sure it doesn't. I just wonder whether discussions have been had, Jim will know this much better than I do, whether discussions have been had about hooking into a neighbouring bid or some other smaller way of making sure that Baldock does have its own similar function, even though I'm pretty sure it wouldn't be funded by local government. The other thing I wanted to say was, and I cannot remember which member of staff it is, but somebody at the council has now started compiling a weekly or fortnightly list for councillors of all the events that are on, and it really shouldn't be difficult to turn that into something that's more public facing or public facing as well. And that would be really brilliant. And I'm certainly happy to take up and explore ways in which that could be done. First time we've ever had it. So goodness me, we should at least share nicely. And the other thing I wanted to say publicly was to apologise to Danny Pearson for having believed for 1 second that he might have been old enough to remember the Queen's Silver Jubilee because of something he said on Twitter yesterday. And I know, of course, he couldn't possibly remember the Queen's Silver Jubilee. So back to you, Chair.
Thanks, Judy. Just in a sort of slight answer to Jim's point about setting up a bid, I mean, there's plenty of people in the council able to advise on that. And I think two of the best qualified people to talk to about that are in this room right now. Tom and Keith can probably take this offline and have a chat with you about how a bid is set up and how to do that side of things. So there's probably lots of help on how to do that. But as Judy says, I don't think there's going to be a pot of money at the end of the bid rainbow for you from the council because, well, due to cuts, we simply don't have that money. Michael Muir, please. Michael, welcome.
Right. Yes, it's about the bid. many years ago when Hitchin and Letchworth applied for theirs, we did look into a bid for Baldock, and some feelers were put out. And because we haven't got much industry in Baldock, there's probably more shopkeepers than industry in Baldock. It fell on deaf ears, unfortunately. But I'd certainly, and us Baldock councillors will certainly like to see whether the atmosphere has changed and whether we could, in future, apply for a bid. Thank you.
Thanks, Michael. I'm sure those who are experienced in these things across the council will be happy to talk to you about that. Judy's just pointed out in the chat that Keith Hoskins has reminded her who's compiling the weekly events listings. So hopefully we'll be able to do something about that within the council and be able to update our website. I don't see any fresh hands up, but as I say that, Kath's hands go up. Kath, go ahead.
Sorry, me again. It's the whole idea of cross-promotion. I think it's great from NHDC's point of view, or North Herts Council point of view, to cross-promote all the different events that are happening. But I think each of us who are running events could cross-promote to our, 4 neighbouring towns, if you like. I know we've all got villages in our local environment that we would be working with as well. But I'd be more than happy that Royston is also talking about Jubilee events that are happening in Baldock, Letchworth and Hitchin. And I think that would just be a nice, good thing to do in the spirit of it, and it serves our residents well as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea, and it's very important. I think it's very good that you've mentioned the villages because, we talk about the 4 towns, but there are villages. Mandy's here from Nebworth, and actually, if the villages themselves, Nebworth is a larger village, so probably doing its own thing. But some of the smaller villages, like the Wymondleys or Gravely, or some of the ones up towards Baldock, the residents there will want to go to more major events because the villages may not be doing their own events. So they will want to know where to go and which town that they want to go to. Now, I've said I'll be going to Hitchin, but I live in St Hippolyte, so that won't come as a great shock. But there's other people from around the district who might want to know where to go to. Just as a question to those organising events, how are you promoting your events outside of your towns, or are you not doing that at all?
Well, certainly the Royston ones is really aimed at Royston people and the villages outside Royston. So we're just putting it on.
Well, Sarah's frozen. It's a local event for local people in Royston, apparently. Jim, go ahead.
Yeah, what we're doing is we're putting a lot of promotion out on social media, and it is primarily a Baldock event for Baldock people, but obviously we do get a lot of people coming in from outside. A lot of people bring their family who live outside, etc. But it's primarily social media that we use, as well as flyers that are put out at the various other community events. But social media is the way forward.
Kath, your hand went up before Ash's.
Yeah, so for us, it's social media and conflicts of interest, but I also run a local magazine, community magazine. So we publish it, publicise everything in there that's event based, which goes to Royston and surrounding villages. So we get and we use local press as well. So we try and engage as many people in different areas as possible through it. Thanks.
Ash, go ahead.
So it depends on the events. Like, for example, in Baldock, we have the Baldock Feast Half Marathon, we have the Baldock Cycle Challenge. And with those, we use social media, but we also use posters and notice boards around all the local villages within the catchment that we know are entering those events. So yeah, social media, and where we can, posters, and also flyers and school bags, also flyers in leisure centres, sports clubs, things like that.
Okay, thanks. I mean, something that sort of what we're hearing there is social media is quite important. And I'm just wondering if the council's social media channels could be used to promote some of the events going on across the district. I think that'd be quite a nice thing. Obviously, those events would have to be the ones we know about and that are fully licensed. But I vaguely remember from the last big sort of tea parties, now I can't remember if it was the royal wedding or it was 2012 anyway. I think it was around Olympics time. There were various street parties going on, and you could go online and look where the next nearest street parties were. And I think that would be quite a useful thing if we could have that somehow promoted on the council's channels. I think a nice bit of Instagram perhaps, or a little bit of Twitter action would be quite useful. And as Danny's just pointed out, younger people have said they only use Instagram, which is something I've heard as well. Has anybody else got anything to say on this topic of promoting the events, or anything else they want to know? James, go ahead.
Thanks. I just, someone said earlier about having a sort of pre-event or activities going on prior to the Jubilee week. And maybe that's something to consider, of having a small few events or something going on the week before to promote what's coming, even if it's some pop-up kind of thing. And I know in Hitchin, with the Hitchin Creative Group, we could easily do something like that for you, Tom, if you felt like we could contribute that as a sort of pre-Jubilee event, some kind of thing we can work on to bring people more into the town for that week, for you to promote what's going on later. That might be something to consider in other areas, perhaps, as a sort of strategic bit of the festival.
Well, Tom, you're next.
Right, yeah. So we always share stuff with other towns. I mean, I've been in touch with Kathy recently about various projects that we work on. So I'm always open to talk to other towns about what we're up to. Very rarely do we come up with original ideas. We steal stuff all the time, and mainly that's from communicating with other towns. So I think if you're not going to the Vibrant Towns meetings, Vibrant Towns is an organisation which I've somehow become chairman of. Is all the town centre managers in Hertfordshire. They meet up on a bi-monthly basis, but we also send messages to each other. They're brutally honest about what experience they've had with contractors and things like that. So it's really helpful to know who to use and who not to use. But also it's really helpful to know what other towns are doing. You know, we're all happy to share what we're doing, because I think the better the events in North Hertfordshire are, the better the offer altogether is. So you know, things like the fact that Wetherspoons has a huge amount of picnic benches is something that all of the towns in North Hertfordshire can actually benefit from, because they have hundreds. So it's kind of, yeah, I mean, I'm happy to share what we're doing and share who we're using and what contractors, and even, you know, in some cases I may be able to show you what prices we're getting as well, because it's always helpful to make sure that we're not getting ripped off, or we're using a terrible company that we used a few years ago and dropped. So yeah, sort of sharing that information. And obviously James is starting the bare bones of a kind of a similar concept with the creative industry in Hitchin, and sort of sharing ideas and sort of sharing knowledge about what we have available in town. So yeah, it's really good.
Thanks for that, Tom. That actually sounds really good, and strongly recommend those of you looking at doing stuff like this, get in touch with Tom, usually found in Hitchin Town Centre in an office, looking like he's enjoying his job, because he does. Sarah Dingley's just added, she's got a little bit of an unstable internet connection, so I'll read it out for her. It'd be really great if she could hear from you, get in touch with you, Tom. She's tried to organise a big screen, but the price was prohibitive. So I'm pretty certain that Sarah, Tom, you can get some advice to Sarah on that, because I know we've spoken in the past on that one, and it's not as prohibitive as it certainly used to be in terms of doing things. Now, I have had a message from Jim. I don't know, Jim, do you want me to read that message out, or it's up to you? I mean, you can speak for yourself.
I mean, I can come in. I just didn't want to spoil the flow, Sam. But it's just people were talking about promoting events and how many times, how many people from outside the town or the area will come to events. But I think, and when do you stop promoting? But as far as the Baldock Big Lunch is concerned, local suppliers need to know how much food to order, because they don't want to be able to order a lot of food and then have that unsold. So we, our Big Lunch is ticket only. and the sales normally end about a week beforehand, and that's dependent upon the suppliers giving us their last date for orders, so that they can order appropriate amounts of food. That means that our ability to accommodate spontaneous attendees is limited. We are able to accommodate some of them, but if we got, say, 100 spontaneous attendees, then we're going to run out of space, because we know broadly how many people are coming.
Thanks, Jim. That's actually really good advice, and it's turned my mind to. I know Ash's hand's up, but I don't think it's a new hand. It is a new hand. Okay, Ash, go ahead. Sorry.
I nearly forgot what I was going to say there. Just going on from what Tom was saying about sharing good practice and stuff, and sharing resources. What I do for Bulldog and Royston, I'm happy to do for Hitchin and Letchworth as well, as I kind of sort of get good deals for first aid cover for events, Portaloo cover for events. But just to put out there as well, there's a website called Add to My Event, which I don't know if you're aware of, but basically if you're organising an event, you can put in any search you want. So it could be toilets, it could be balloons, it could be anything else. And these companies contact you direct within a day or 2 days. So really, really good resource, not within the council, but external, but can help with every single element of your event in terms of equipment needs. And just the other thing I was going to say, Sam, in terms of street parties, yes, it's great to promote the town centre street parties, but the cul-de-sac specific ones, there might be more low key, so we're not meant to be promoting those, or else we get into issues about licensing and trouble with the county. So just be aware of that.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And it sounds like what's going on there is a bit of a Groupon for bogs and bandages, and it sounds like quite an important thing to do. I know from experience trying to organise a few events recently that getting hold of the Portaloos can be quite difficult in this area, particularly at a time where quite a lot of people will probably be ordering them all at once. So get in early, because they do tend to sell out quite quickly. I believe quite a few of them are deployed on the M20 at the moment. Another point that I want to raise, nobody else has raised here, but I think is important, but it is related. I think we probably need to address, with all of these events going on, recycling and litter, as well as food waste. Now, there's a high chance, because we live in England, that it's going to rain on the day, and that could result in some people not coming out and there being some food waste. So what I would strongly advise you all to do, if you're, unless you're sort of Tom, who's probably already got, in fact, I know has got this in hand, but get in touch with the council and get some advice on what to do in terms of litter collection, recycling and food waste, because there will be quite a lot of things going on that will be, it could, you know, you don't want to get vermin out there and stuff left out there. If you've ever been to the Notting Hill Carnival and seen what goes on after the carnival's finished, that's quite a big mess. And Danny Pearson's just pointed out that there will be an awful lot of loos in service in Nebworth, and that is down to Liam Gallagher, who's having a big there. So it could get quite busy in North Hertfordshire. But actually, it's
Liam
worth
Gallagher famously got a bad tummy or something.
I don't know, it's Mancunian food probably, but that will have an effect on transport locally as well. So just be aware that there is a major event in the south of the district. So that could have a knock-on effect in Hitchin in particular, certainly will have a knock-on effect in Nebworth and possibly some of the villages as well. So just be aware of those things. But as Ashley mentioned, the SAG will be able to advise on that, the events that go on, so right across North Hertfordshire, and they'll be right across that event as well already. Has anybody else? Tom's hand's gone up. So Tom, do you want to dive in, or is that an old hand?
No, I just wanted to say that with this gig in Nebworth, it does mean that there will be very, very little police presence. So we've found that any roads that need closing, or parades or carnivals or anything like that, normally the police would help us out, but they've said that the chances of there being any resources to be around is very slim, because they're all going to be up at Nebworth. And also, I've just been reminded that there is there's due to be, understandably, a national shortage of union bunting. So the advice is to get your order in early, because by April time, apparently they're not going to be available to buy, or the prices are going to be incredibly high. So it's worth getting it in now.
Yeah, and there is a major logistics issue coming into the UK at the moment. Lots of lack of shipping containers, and also congestion at the ports, which means that there may be shipping containers full of bunting, but they may be in France or stuck in a port somewhere between here and China. So unless you can buy British bunting, which looks unlikely, make your own or order early is my suggestion on that one. It's a really good point, Tom. Ash's hand's gone back up.
This is promised that this could be a last from me. I don't usually talk as much. Just in terms of cul-de-sac street parties as part of the Queen's Jubilee, I'm coordinating the kind of effort from the council. So if you're aware of any groups that are looking to put events on in their cul-de-sac, if you can put them in touch with me, and I've got a spreadsheet of information that I can pass it on to them to help them out. That's it for me.
I think that sounds like another thing that we need to do as the council. Then, as another action to take away from this, is we need to do some communications work on, thinking of having an event. Talk to Ash, sort of bit of communication going out, and just let people know that if they want to have a street party, if they want to do that, here's a how to sort of start a pack, and job one is talk to Ash. So if you hear that across your areas as well, here somebody wants to do a street party in your towns, please let them know to get in touch with us, and we'll help as much as we can. Now, does anybody else have any hands they want to raise or points they want to make before I move to the next agenda item, which is going to last about 5 seconds, I suspect? Nobody's hand's gone up. The next agenda item is councillors.
Emma's
gone. Yes, please, Emma, go ahead.
Hear me, new headset. Yes. It was actually just to come back to your point there about, for example, waste management. If you're a volunteer looking to run an event, I was just frantically trying to look through some old emails there to see if I could find some help. So for those of you who don't know, I run the Baldock Community Fireworks, most recently, obviously in the November just gone, following a bit of a break with COVID. So I was looking for information that would have been from our 2019 event, and I couldn't find it. I didn't actually look to engage waste management as an example, partly because I'm very fortunate to be able to stuff a lot of it in the old school bins. But we had a huge amount of waste generated, as you'd expect in that type of event, and it took a little while to clear. What I would say is I remember the quote I had being extraordinarily high, and I would certainly going forward welcome any advice, but actually really support in practical terms of how to manage that, because where you're a small charity and entirely staffed by volunteers, if you get a quote for something that frankly should be provided for you, it is incredibly frustrating to get something coming out where, I mean, it was hundreds and hundreds of pounds. And at that point I had nothing to start with. So, and it's one of those things, I think it almost gets to a point when you're confronted with that kind of thing, you think, oh, why am I doing this? Unfortunately, I didn't find with the safety advisory group that Ash was wonderful at guiding me through a lot of the snags and issues. But when it comes down to it, it's for me to have to write a 25-page document plus 8 pages of COVID things and so on and so on, all of which I'll absolutely do if the people it goes to read it. Unfortunately, a lot of questions came back to me that clearly were all in the document, and I'm only highlighting because I don't want to take away from what all of this has been. I've been scribbling notes, and it's fantastic to hear all these different things. But if you're a volunteer looking to organise an event, you go on, you sort of confronted with a huge document, you're not sure where to go, you then get several £100 worth of quotations for waste removal and things like that. It could be really difficult. And I just worry if people aren't, if they don't know where to go maybe. But certainly if I'm looking at something, I'm thinking, do you know what, I'm not sure actually. I've been presented with all these different things. I'll just go to Hitchin and actually enjoy their event. It sounds great. So yeah, I would definitely welcome any guidance on practical things like waste management, and how that could be supported for a small independent event like that.
Aside from welcoming you to Hitchin, I think we do actually, that's really important feedback, and I think that's something as a council we need to take away and just have a bit of a look at and a think about how we advise people on that, and just make sure that you know the resources and the things that are available to you. I mean, it might be that you could partner with a local business and use their, I think they're pink bags that you can buy from the council to have the disposal that way. There are schemes available. So I think that's something we probably need to go and talk to our waste team about a little bit more and try and come up with a bit better, clearer advice. And hopefully the other officers have heard what you said about the 25 pages plus 8 and them not being read, because and
as I say, I don't want to be a misery at all on what, like I say, I've got 2 pages now of different bits and pieces that I can look at and things, and or just go to myself. But no, I think that those documents, they have a place, of course they do, and it gets you thinking about all the things that you need to manage as the event organizer. But I would certainly be more than happy to be involved in streamlining that process. And if there's anything that I can do as an end user, I'd be happy to be involved in that.
Thanks for that. I think that'd be something very interesting to look at. I think we'd have to talk to the portfolio holders responsible. It's not the one I'm usually responsible, so I think that's a decision for them. But I thank you for the offer, and I'll make sure that is heard by the person who will do that, and I know they have listened to that. So
thank you.
So the next agenda item we've got coming up is the councillors' discussion. Now, normally I skip past this as quickly as possible because the councillors have had equal right in this discussion as everybody else. So limiting this bit of the meeting to councillors, unless there's any councillors with burning questions, I will move on to the final agenda item. So, Judy's hand's gone up. Go ahead, Judy.
Well, I just wanted to thank Emma for those comments, because it's a bit piss poor show, if you don't mind me using the expression, for us to put on a cabinet panel like this about all the wondrousness of the local council in helping local organisations with their events, if we don't listen to what you've got to say like that. And it's not as if it comes as a great shock, because there are sometimes individuals, parts of our organisation, who don't immediately get the notion of community engagement because they've got a profession and a service to run, and there's been a bit of a long history of thinking of that first. And it's partly my job, and it's partly the job of all the officers and councillors in this room to improve on that and make it better. And hearing comments like yours just makes me more determined to do so. That's not the same as solving the problem you've asked us to solve, but it does mean that it gives me concrete evidence to take away to say, look, it's just not good enough. Okay, so I just wanted to thank you for that.
Thank you, Judy. I was just messaging to say I wasn't going to highlight that was you were the relevant portfolio holder, but that's why I knew that you'd been listening to that. But yeah, I think that's really good feedback for Emma there, and hopefully, we can get that improved. And thanks a lot, Judy. That was really helpful. Do any other councillors have anything to add before we move to the final agenda item? I can see heads being shaken. So we'll move on to the final agenda item, which is the actions arising and the work programme. So I will ask Steve, Crowley and Chloe to lead this section, because that's what it says to do in my agenda. Steve or Chloe, who wants to go first?
I'll start off. So in terms of the current work programme that we're working through, I'm not going to propose to go through it because the actions on that are stuff from other committee meetings that we've had. I've put down a list of some of the key actions that we've discussed tonight. I'm not going to go for every single one in turn, but I think what we'll do is we'll put that out as part, obviously, of the minutes, and hopefully we've captured it. And if we have missed anything that anyone thinks that we really should have captured, then please make sure you do feedback to us, and therefore we can ensure that we do add that to our work programme. So I think that's all that I really want to add at this point, because it is kind of a new meeting and therefore the previous actions aren't relevant to this one.
Chloe, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I was just going to add that obviously the title of this evening's cabinet panel is community events throughout 2022, but obviously a focus on the Queen's Platinum Jubilee this evening. So I think, and just this is just my opinion, but I think tonight's actually been very successful, and we have obviously briefly mentioned other events throughout the year, but I think it would be a really good theme to carry on in some of the cabinet panels, not necessarily the next one, because that is that will be for another department or service area to run, but kind of when we take it in turns. So when it comes back to us, I'm happy, or we'll have to discuss this with councillors obviously, but I think it'd be really nice to just carry the momentum and keep the theme up. So it might be, I don't know what the next theme could be, but continuing the community events throughout 2022 might be quite valuable.
Yeah, I think that's really important feedback, Chloe, and I think that'd be really useful and a good role the council can do, particularly as well as working with the bids. For example, I still haven't had a conversation with Tom that I want to fill Hitchin with tractors again next Christmas, and to liaise with that, and possibly also Letchworth and Baldock, because we're going to fill your towns with tractors as well. But there's other events that I think could be useful, that if there's other events going on in the town, you can start to get a bit of a cluster of things going on. So that communication going between the events, the council and the bids, I think that would be really, really useful. So I think, yeah, that sounds like a really good idea, Chloe. And I think, again, that's something, I know it's a little bit late in the meeting, but we need to add to our sort of actions, that we probably need to almost have a review of community events going on. Maybe just in almost, you could pretty much almost do it in every meeting almost, just to highlight what's coming up next, next time on North Hertfordshire, as the trailer for the, like the Marvel films at the end, you have the post-credits scene. Be quite nice. Right, well, I think in terms of the action plans, we've got those pretty much nailed down. Chloe, are you happy with those?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I went back on mute. I thought it was over.
No, that was it. No, I think we are coming to the end of the meeting now. So I'll give anybody an open chance, a very quick open floor. If anybody else has got anything else to add. Danny Pearson has raised a very good point, which I was already about to say, but I wasn't sure how public it was, but he's put it in the chat anyway, because I was talking to this to Chloe and Steve. North Herts Museum in Hitchin has got a great calendar of events coming up for this period. Some of them I'm particularly excited about, but we can't tell you about. But do keep a very close eye on what's going on at the museum, because there's going to be some very fun stuff on the run up to the Jubilee this year and all through the rest of the year. But right now, if you may have seen in the town hall, we've torn up the floor just because we want to put a new one in. So don't worry, the town hall isn't going anywhere. It's just we're replacing the floor of the Hitchin Town Hall, and that will be back in service very soon. Anybody else wanting to have anything to say? I saw Judy switch her mute off. I didn't know if that was Pedro wanting to have another say, or Judy.
He's chewing now, he's all right.
Well, otherwise, I will just say thank you to everybody for attending this meeting. Please feel free to get in touch with me or any of the other councillors in this meeting. You can find our details on the North Herts Council website. We're all very, very happy to hear from you. And otherwise, enjoy the rest of your evening. I most certainly will. Thank you very much, everybody, for attending. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.